Okay, so this is Lou Martin, and this is my project called Awakened Spirits Network, and we are at June 4th, 2023. And I have the great honor and privilege of being with one of the most experienced, committed, and gifted teachers that I know of on my 36 years on this path, and that is the lovely ALUNA Joy YAXKIN. Am I saying that right, ALUNA?
You did, even
Okay.
with a Mayan.
Okay, good. Points for pronunciation. And on your lovely site, it says Earth Oracle, Star Elder Messenger, Sacred Site Guide, and Essences and Egyptian Chakra Oils. And as I said, you have a great post here about, what's the title? Scroll. Entering a Supernova
Super
Ascension Portal.
Ascension Portal.
Madame, the floor is all yours.
All right, where do you want me to start?
Yeah, well, wherever you. So we just had the full moon yesterday.
Yeah, and I think, yeah.
Go on. Yeah, well, just divine timing of this chat and to talk about 20 days and what you see on the horizon.
Yeah, it was interesting because this last May, I don't know, everybody watching will probably feel some of this. May was really intense. May was just, we dove so deep and I couldn't understand why. And then they discovered this star in the Pinwheel Galaxy that had gone supernova. In other words, it died. So not only did it get infiltrated with all that stellar energy and light, but also the grief and the loss of the death of a star. But these are things that are hitting us. If we're seeing that supernova in our telescopes now, it means the light is actually hitting us because it died a long time ago. But now we're seeing it, which means it is now, those light particles are actually hitting the Earth now. And that affects us. And then you add the full moon, and then you add the 20-day ascension portal, which is based on the modern day Mayan calendar. Right. That I will clarify here is not traditional, it's modern. I've watched both calendars since forever.
Right.
And I post both calendars every year on my site as a download.
Okay.
I watch them both, and this whole article is just based on the modern day. And the 20-day ascension portal happens every 260 days.
Right.
But every time we go around this loop, it's like an ascending spiral. So we've come back around to the place that we started 260 days ago, but we're an evolutionary notch up, and then we take it another spin, and then we take it another spin.
Right.
So a lot of times you might hit repeating patterns.
Sure.
And also find better tools and ways to navigate life in a way that we didn't have 260 days ago.
Yes, the same. I get it. It's it's brilliant. It's not a circle so much as it's a spiral.
It's a spiral,
right? But we are dealing with the same energies until we, as you said in your post, I've just put both of them on my page. The one from the 21st and this new one about the supernova. Until we face them and really make meaning of our shadow and of our karma and of our past, of course it has to keep repeating itself.
Yeah. And I don't think we ever completely avoid our shadow. I think
no.
It's really hard to dive in, acknowledge it, and heal it all the way. So we do it in layers because the universe is kind.
Yeah.
The cosmos is great. Creator is kind.
Yes.
And lets us do step by step.
Yes.
One step so we can handle it.
Yes.
And then you add the fact that we're landing in a whole new cycle of time that started in 2012.
Right.
And now we're in this place where we don't even know where our future is going anymore.
Right.
And you add that to it, and it's a really interesting time to be alive on planet Earth.
Yes, it's rocking and rolling. Yeah. No, Yeah, I love what you're saying about the Creator being kind and merciful. You shared this great story about your receiving just enough money to cover your bills and your rent after you gave, after you asked God for help. Do you want to tell that story really briefly?
Yeah, it was back in the 1980s. I was in Mount Shasta. I was just starting out as acknowledging who I was
There
and
you go.
allowing, honoring that.
Yes.
And I was living on, 2 nickels together, basically.
Right.
And I had written my book already, which is out of print, so don't go looking for it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. um, and I was out of money, and all the bills were due. And I hit this place, and we've all hit these places in our lives. We've hit them so many times, these places where we don't know what's going to happen to us. And I thought I was going to end up homeless the next day. And I was going to have to tell my landlord that I wasn't going to be able to pay the rent. And I figured my lights would be off the next morning. So that night I went to bed, and
Bless you.
I appreciated it. Oh, I had a roof over my head. I had a warm bed to sleep in. And
Yeah.
next morning I got up, and the heat was still on, and the lights were still on. I thought, okay, I don't know what to do, because God didn't give me an answer, because during the night I said, I know what to do. I surrender. I give up. I don't know what to do.
Radical surrender. That was the title. Yes.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, radical, because I had no control. I had absolutely no control.
Right.
And so I got up in the morning. I didn't know what else to do. So I went to the post office and got my mail, came home and opened up my mail. And I never told anybody how in debt I was. I didn't tell anybody in our little town. Nobody knew. But I knew how much money I needed to pull me out of it. And when I opened up the envelope, there was $1,400 bills, cash.
And no notes, no one.
No,
Okay.
no address.
Right.
I don't think you can do that anymore. I don't think you can mail an envelope without a return address anymore. But yeah, it was $1,400 bills.
Magic.
And I was blown away. And
Yes.
there was the only marker on the envelope at all was an iridescent little heart, which I peeled off, and I still have. It's on my computer.
I love that part. I love that part. You're real romantic. Yes.
And of course, God doesn't tell you what to do. Creator doesn't tell you what to do. Your spirit guide should never tell you what to do if they're good spirit guides. And I didn't know what to do with that money. I thought, well, I could move out of my apartment and run, or I could honor all my debts and pay them. And it was like, and I go, no, I'm going to pay all my bills.
Yeah, babe.
And at the end of the day, I had gas and food, and all my bills were paid, and I had 59 cents.
I love it.
And from that point on, I've always had enough.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
I don't make
right
enough.
You have enough.
I've never been short in my bills ever since.
Right.
But I had that place where I sort of broke,
Yeah, you had a huge shift, hon. You really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had many since, but that story really sticks to me.
Sure.
Because it was just so ridiculously point on point.
Well, and bless you. I want to tell you, I'm still living that way today. I'm putting it out there, and lovely people show up and put it in my pocket at the 11th hour, and I'm like, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you very much. I had an experience in Vienna, which was similar. I was living there for a year with Rihanna and my girlfriend. And we just moved into a new flat, and we owed €1,000 for the deposit on the apartment that day. And so I sat on the sofa and I did my surrender process and my giving thanks and my manifestation, all that. The bell rings at the door, open up the door. It's the German postman. He doesn't speak English. I don't speak German. He has me sign a thing. He gives me an envelope. There's $1,000 in the envelope. This was a refund from some insurance that Rhiannon bought that she didn't use or something. But it was, and of course, it was due that day. It was absolutely due that day. And we'd already moved in. So yes, I mean, radical surrender. I think this is the theme of trusting. And also, I love what you said about, I mean, you stayed in your integrity. You did with the money what you asked God to help you have the money to do. You didn't change.
I didn't ask for money. I didn't ask for money. I just gave up.
Well,
I let God handle it all. God handled it all.
Okay. All right.
I was.
Yeah. Well, the good people are supported. God is kind, and especially when we give thanks and we are loving, joyous, appreciative, grateful. When our hearts are full, then eventually everything else will fill up as well, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's right about May, and you shared that post a couple weeks ago, and now here we are moving into this window of the solstice, and these 20 days, leading up to the solstice. And as you said, I mean, I had one of the biggest experiences of my life, May of 2023, with my little skin cancer surgery, and 7 hours of surgery and 50 days of recovery, basically in bed most of the time. So I've just gotten out a couple days ago, and I'm still walking on eggshells, and I can barely believe I can put on my favorite pair of pants and cook my own food. These wild, crazy freedoms. So these things do give us a deeper appreciation for our choices, I guess, is what I want to say, and how important that is. I think that's what we're in the spiral, the circle that is also the spiral. It's like, have you learned? Have you matured? Did you get the message? Or do we have to get a little rougher with you? Turn up the volume. So can you talk more about your sense of the energies here? And also, I'd love for people to know about your travels and your deep connection to the Mayans and the other cultures. I mean, my goodness, woman, you must have the frequent flyer miles of all time.
Yeah, well, it sounds like I travel a lot, but I really don't. It's a couple to 3 trips a year. This year will be three trips.
Okay.
I went to the Maya lands when I was still a Baptist Christian.
Okay.
And I was going through a divorce, and my life was falling apart, and I'd never left the country ever. Okay. And all of a sudden, I'm being called to the Maya lands, and I ended up in a little site called Tulum. And back in those days, it wasn't a big tourist trap like it is now.
Okay.
And the first thing that flew out of my mouth was a very bizarre thing for me at the time was, oh my God, they're gone. And then I looked at myself, I go, what did that mean? So that night, I just couldn't stop myself. And I was camping because I was broke, and my boyfriend and I we were camping on the beach.
Okay.
Just south of Tulum, and I had the hit to walk in after hours. And so I spent the night inside that temple, and the full moon rose over the ocean. I mean, I couldn't have planned that.
Wow.
And it changed my life. And I got a download that lasted 3 nights. Every night, just as I was falling asleep, I'd get these very scary at the time, because I didn't know what was happening, very scary at the time, downloads. And it changed my life. And all of a sudden, my perspective on life and my, it was like I completely changed.
Yeah.
And when I got home, I completely altered my life. I moved to Mount Shasta. I completely surrounded by people, and I didn't know what Mount Shasta was either.
Okay.
And I didn't know it was a sacred site.
Right.
I knew that it got my attention as a kid, sacred sites, Anasazi, Maya, Inca. But I didn't understand what that had to do with me. Okay. But I went up to Mount Shasta during the Harmonic Convergence weekend.
Right.
And planned this.
Okay.
And I went up with my camping gear, and I thought, well, everybody said the campgrounds were full, and I didn't believe them. So I drove up to Panther Meadows, and the sign in the front of the campground said campground full. I didn't believe that. And I drove in, little VW bug with my camping gear.
Oh, love it.
There was one camping site left.
But of course.
And is anybody using this spot? And the place was packed.
Right.
With crazy, wild hippie love people, and they were hugging you, and this world that I didn't understand. And I wasn't in a world where everybody was so open and free and loving and kind and supportive. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And that was it. So I went back home, I packed up, and I moved.
Incredible. Yeah.
Wow. Spirit will, if you listen, Spirit will guide you.
Yeah, Spirit will open the door.
So people ask me, why don't I go to this site, or why don't I go to that site? I said, I have to be called from here.
Okay.
I have to feel a calling.
Yeah.
And then when I feel it's right to go, then that's when I plan the trip.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at figuring it out a year and a half or two in advance, because it takes that a trip together.
Sure.
And get enough people time enough to sign up.
Yeah.
But I never go just automatically, just one or the other, because I don't want it to be a business. I want it to be a calling.
Yeah.
So I purposely kept my life small for that reason. But then I noticed that we get powerful community from those trips.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just getting better. The love and the connection and the companionship. And then on my last trip to the Mayalands, a couple of people got some pretty good downloads. And I've never explained what my download felt like. And they explained it, and I went, oh, they got the download.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. And I know that if I was doing it as a business where I was just cranking out the trips, I don't think we would hit those magical spots.
I'm sure not. Yeah. No, sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I just want to, say this is your integrity, has always deeply moved me, and I'd love to hear, what your daily life is like in terms of your spiritual practices, because I absolutely see you as someone who lives with that integrity, with Spirit from the inside out, and impeccability actually is an even better word, and your training in the Baptist Church, your preparation for the other side of the spiritual realm, must have gotten had a huge influence on you. So, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that if you want to talk about any of that.
Well, my connection to Jesus certainly has evolved. And I don't know if I have what I would call a practice or something that I sit down and do every day.
Okay.
I do things when I'm called. I work when I'm called. I sleep when I'm called. I eat.
Yeah.
And if I last night I did a little ceremony in my medicine circle for the full moon.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I do as a habit.
Sure, I hear you.
Because I think habits can be as much of a rut as anything else.
Yeah.
So I do things when I feel called.
Beautiful. Well, that suits my temperament, I have to tell you. That's about my speed, as well. But and in terms of growing up in the Baptist church and all that, how did that prepare you for what you've become in later life? Yeah.
Well, I just know that what I experienced when I'm sitting there in those pews was very different than anybody else. I felt like I had, and even as a young child, I knew I was, I guess, born awake.
Yes.
I knew that I was 3 years old. I was connected to star elders, although I didn't have that name for them.
Wow.
I called them my buddies.
Great.
And I still call them the buddies. So people go, who are you talking about? I go, well, you know, when I write about them, I have to say something cool. So I call them the stars.
Yeah.
But it's not their name. They don't have names.
Okay.
They're a group of ascended being like masters that I've been connected to my whole life.
Wow.
And I had a strong connection with Jeshua and a strong connection to Archangel Michael. And that kind of carried me through my childhood because I knew from the age of 2 or 3, I'm not really sure if I remember what exact age, because you don't know what age you are when you're 2 or 3 years old.
Sure.
I just know I looked at my family and I went, oh my gosh, who are those people? And this is a big mistake. And how did I end up here?
Right.
And then when I started waking up the second time, because I shoved it down, because there was no place in the world for me to be myself at all.
Sure.
So I tried very hard to fit in and do what everybody expected of me and just, you know, follow the norm. And I failed miserably, Matt. And when I started recognizing that again, and it was during my second Saturn return.
Okay. 30 years old. Yeah. Okay.
Isn't that my first Saturn return? My second one wasn't so bad, but my first one was pretty awful. My whole life turned upside down and inside out. And I all of a sudden I was listening to my buddies again, the Star Holders.
Wow.
And they're the ones who told me to go to Mount Shasta.
Okay.
They didn't go, because they never tell me to do anything, but they said you should go to a higher altitude.
Okay. Okay.
And I lived in Southern California at the time, and I go, wow, I heard Mount Shasta is really pretty. I'll go there. That's all I knew. That's it.
Yeah.
And it changed. And Christianity has beautiful truths.
Yes.
And I don't throw those in the garbage can.
Yeah.
I just upcycled them.
Yeah.
And realized it's I have a much broader interpretation than I did when I was growing up. Yeah. And then I started seeing the common threads between all religions that most of us here all know about. We all know everything is connected, and all these religions started originally probably from the same source, and archaeology and all kind of explained some of this.
Sure.
So so it's evolved, and I know a lot of people that I meet have evolved where they grew up into something that is more closer to the truth. Yeah. But I don't think they're yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing all that. Here's what you shared with us on your post. Entering a supernova ascension portal, a deeper, and I just want to read the first paragraph here, a deeper and more profound level of our divine purpose and work on Earth is now birthing through us, but with it a very ancient but also expansive cosmic level of detox is coming as well. This has been triggered by a star that has gone supernova in a distant galaxy. You mentioned the Pinwheel Galaxy near the Big Dipper. Astronomers can already see this light. The light is now reaching us from 21 million light years away. So as you said, there is there are signs on heaven and earth, and things happen in the cosmos that accelerate us and open portals and open stargates and these kinds of energies. What you're writing there in your posts is about the 20-day, what they call the spine of the Zolkin, the 20-day center period of the Mayan 260-day calendar, which is 9 months, which of course is the time for human gestation for a child to be born through the mother's womb. And so there is this peeling away, uncovering, revealing, unfolding, dismantling, deconstructing. And, as I said, from my own experience of May and April and May, and, you're relating to it deeply, and other people, we're all having these, deepening experiences of the importance of of the choices that we make, of what we believe, of what we speak, of our integrity, of our impeccability, of acting as messengers of truth. And you know, it really does feel like such a pivotal time, you know. And as you're saying, you know, I mean, I had my awakening when I turned 30, around the harmonic convergence.
Oh.
Yes, yes. So that was my, you know, you know, and I had a Kundalini awakening that lasted 7 days, basically. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm in. You know, sign me up. I'm ready. Let's do this thing. And Mount Shasta has been dear to me. I think I met you in Sedona, as I was saying earlier, not in Shasta, but I've been to Shasta many times and was at Joshua David Stone's WESAC festivals up there a few times, and that was profound as well. I was also the only place I've been in my life where I saw 12 feet of snow on the side of each of the road. That was impressive. But yeah, I just want to bring you know, our conversation here, which I'm enjoying. I cannot tell you how much. You know, into how you know, the tools you have made available for all of us, the calendar, the oils, the essences, the laying out the different pulses of the 5 Mayan chakras over this 20-day period. Can you talk a little bit about some of that?
Oh, that's a big subject.
How's that for setting it up? Yeah.
Oh,
You're
you
giving
know,
us a lot of resources. Yeah.
yeah, I gave you a lot of resources of things I use.
Yes.
But to be honest,
Please.
all things are external.
Sure.
You got to listen to what's going on in here and follow that, no matter what anybody says on the outside.
Yeah.
Or do what feels right for you.
Yeah.
And because each one of us is a unique piece of a puzzle, and we can't pretend to be somebody else's piece of the puzzle. We have to be our own piece. And that way we make the whole picture. Just like the article when I explained, you know, we're going through this physical detox and all this is caused by the star. Well, everything we're going through right now isn't because of the star. This is an article that only explains a tiny little bit of a grand experiment plan, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
To help humanity evolve into the next cycle.
Yeah.
And in an article, it's very limited to do that. I use oils all the time. I use my essences all the time. I find that working in my garden is helpful.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
pulling weeds, taking a walk. I live a block away from a Tibetan stupa, so I go there often.
Right.
You know, playing with my dog. You know, doing what helps lift you,
right,
and not ignoring the stuff that comes up. So I'm getting hit with both sides. We're going to be shown, the first few days of that pulse, the 20 days, is fairly light because it comes in from the crown and it works down through your body as it's coming up from the earth. And then it goes to the throat and then the heart. And then once it gets to the heart and below, then you start hitting the really interesting stuff. And that's right around solstice.
Okay.
So that's kind of interesting too, because we started on a full moon and we're kind of ending a day, or it'll end a couple days after solstice.
Okay.
So
yeah.
That's when you really, because you've elevated, anytime you elevate yourself, you have to, it's a balance between, okay, I've learned this much light, so now it brings up this stuff you haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with this stuff, then you don't get the next level of light.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's called sitting with it, owning it, thinking about it, writing about it, journaling about it, talking to friends about it,
yeah,
releasing it,
yes,
you know, whatever works for you.
Forgiving it.
And forgiving yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Forgive yourself for falling so far and for making mistakes, and forgiving yourself and forgiving others, and moving on. And also learning how to handle and navigate the more refined energy that we're moving into.
Mhm.
We step into this more and more because I think we're just starting to step into it with our physical bodies now.
Yeah.
The new cycle that landed in 2012 was very ethereal and it wasn't very physical. It was all in the spirit world. And it's starting to get physical now. And it's starting to affect people in odd, strange ways. And we can see this when we turn on the news in the morning. You know, you're going to see people acting out things that just don't make sense.
Yeah.
And also realizing that the world that's crumbling needs to crumble and
Yeah.
to stand back, not fight something that's crumbling
Yeah.
and let it go. And
Yeah.
then start creating, and instead of getting caught up about what we're losing, start creating something that is in your heart to do.
Beautiful.
Something beautiful, something uplifting, something that will help humanity.
Yeah.
And it can be very, very small.
Yeah.
And because each one of us did one small thing, each one of us, that would turn the table right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, this is the return of the Divine Mother to me, you know, and the creativity and creating loving community and believing in the goodness of life and appreciating the goodness in ourselves and each other, and you know, having positive and hopeful and joyous expectations rather than fear and dread and worry and regret.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, and you did a wonderful post, ALUNA, a few months ago about walking on the land and being guided somewhere by the elders, and you know, again, you always share your, you know, your most human you know, moments of pain and fear and loneliness and confusion and all that, which I really respect and appreciate. What's coming to my mind is you know, your sense of the new earth, your sense of living in 5D, your sense of, you know, how we're evolving into that vibration, how many of us are being consciously made aware, you know, that we're the gatekeepers of evolving into this new vibration. You know, just any thoughts you have about that, I'd love to hear.
One of the things they've been telling me is we don't know where this is going, number one. We're not going to see far down the track like we used to. Remember the days when we could figure out where things were heading?
Sure.
We see a long ways down in the future track, and that all stopped in 2012. I'm starting to feel like creation will happen as we create it. And it's almost like taking an active role and creating it in a way that we don't define anything. And this is the message that's coming through on equinox. When we were in Mexico, we got a strong message about not defining anything. And that's really hard to do, labeling, defining, and the creation is going to come out of that. Even when you bring up 5D, the starters don't use it. Once you this dimension, there is no fourth, fifth, sixth. That's a third dimensional way of understanding it, because we're still linear. But when you pass linear living and into spherical living, which none of us understand, I've had visions about it, but I can't explain it to you in a proper way to make sense. It's about creating in each moment, and we can't just sit back and let's see. We can't just sit back and say, okay, let's see what happens. It's almost like we have to take an active, we have to be active and take steps. And sometimes it's hard because we don't see where it's going. We don't know where it's going to end up. We don't know how we're going to do it. We just have to take one step. And we've seen this on our path. We've been practicing this in a more, in a simpler way, taking a step, and then the next step will arrive, and we'll, that's where that's going. And then you take that step and go, okay, that's where that's going. But this is bigger and more refined, and it's stepping into territory we've never been before. we've never been before. And in ages past, when we hit a shift of an age, we dropped our bodies and we waited for the earth to evolve to a certain point, and then we started reincarnating again.
Right.
And this time we decided to go through with our bodies,
Right.
which has been an interesting journey
Yeah.
for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
And the idea that we're here to see beyond what we've already understood and known. And it's not about what we know in our minds, but what we feel in our hearts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, you can't describe that, because
Sure.
it's gonna be different for each one of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. My guides say the heart knows what the mind struggles to believe. And to me, the return of the Divine Mother and the Divine Feminine is letting the heart guide us. And, in my own, journey over and over again, it's always the heart that heals everything, that uncovers everything and reveals everything and understands everything. And then the mind tries to, as you said, define it and control it and figure it out and plan it and build a temple on it. And, and the heart just goes boom,
Make a religion and then distort it.
Yeah.
And then try to control people with it. Yeah.
Right. Sell it, package it. Yeah. Stamp it. Yeah. All sorts. Right.
Yeah.
And like you're saying again.
That's it in a nutshell. You did it better than me.
Well, no, you helped. We're doing it together, my friend. Bless you. But it is again that, you're called to, like, again, thank you for sharing your childhood and all of the stories, to this. I'm studying with a teacher named Addie Lamborn. I don't know if you know her, and she does the videos for Patricia Cota Robles. And we just did a Jesus initiation meditation from another channel that she played for an hour before, before I had a break, and then you and I are getting on here today. So everything's like, flowing very nicely at the moment, which is wonderful. Yeah, but radical surrender. I mean, so I've been playing and singing. I know, I think I played and sang for you back in the day. I didn't do it off and on for years. And, I've just gotten back into it this last year. And that's been such a great gift. But what I want to say is, I never know what I'm going to sing or how I'm going to sing something, or if I have the lyric, or, I have the right words and all that. It's being in the moment. That's what I'm reaching for here. It's trusting the moment, that it guides us. We have to pay attention, as you do, to the whispers and the feelings, and, not talk yourself into anything, but, okay, this feels solid to me. This feels true. I will do this. And it's a skill. Yeah, it's a great skill. And you've had that since you were a child, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, and then persecuted for it for a while.
Bless you. Well, welcome to planet Earth.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
God love you. God love you. You're tough though. You made it through. Honey.
Yeah, and I write my articles like that. My messages. It starts with an idea, and I jot that down, and it could be any time of day. It's not like I just sit down. Okay, I'm going to write an article. It starts off, and then it just takes off on its own. Beautiful. And not me making it up. It's not me figuring it out and putting it in paper. It comes from someplace inside me, from someplace else.
Yeah. And it takes over. It guides you.
Yeah, just like music would. Yeah. And
ALUNA, on your trips, of course, I mean, some of these places you've been to a good few times, but I'm sure every time you're there, these sacred sites with the energy of the ancients, you're always, you got your dowser out there. You're always going, okay, kids, what are we doing today?
Yeah. People say, well, what are we going to do when we get there? And I go, I don't know. I look at it like, well, what did I sign up with her for? Because she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. Well, I wait until I get there, and then I listen to the land and the trees and the stones and wherever we are.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to wait a bit. Sometimes I get it right away. Sometimes I don't get anything.
Right.
you wait and listen, because it's not me imposing my mental ideas on this. It's about going to the site and treating it like it's a completely living, breathing thing that's there to teach us.
Yes.
And then we give back. Then we give back love. And when you do that, it's reciprocal and it's beautiful.
Yeah. We connected because you were in Avebury. You were just over in the UK, and I happened to see that, and that was what inspired me to reach out here from Ireland. How was that trip for you? What did anything in particular come up?
That was our first trip out since COVID. And we knew it was going to be challenging, and I'd just gone through a big life upheaval. So, I was really vulnerable at that point. And which actually helped everybody else in the group to be totally vulnerable as well. And I found that being myself and helped everyone else to allow themselves to be themselves too. Because that's exactly what we're supposed to express when we're here.
Yeah.
This body, in this earth, in this cosmos that we're in, is to be ourselves.
Yeah.
Be ourselves.
Beautiful. I got to go there in 2019, and Rita Melchizedek did a conference in Glastonbury. I don't know if you know Rita. She's another wonderful teacher. She's based in South Africa, but she invited me and a dozen other teachers, and we had a great event over there. And so it was my first trip to England and to Glastonbury, and went to Avebury twice, and Stonehenge and all that. But I just feel like the awakening for me, there's this awakening is happening from the ground up, from the earth through us, as you said, as well as from the star, the stars down. And there's incredible, powerful magic in England and in those sacred sites over there. And what you're saying about vulnerability and just being really honest and authentic and human, that's right there next to radical surrender. Like, you want to know what the future looks like? It's called authenticity. And if you can't find it, you ain't going. That's the closed door. So these are all just great initiations that we're going through. Fantastic.
And I find that when we go into a site, being vulnerable and human, and apologizing. One of the things I like to do when I walk into a sacred site is I apologize for my humanness, and I go, I know I'm not where our total awakened self yet. So please forgive me for anything that I might be ignorant about. Please help to show me what is available to me at this moment, what I'll be able to understand in this moment. And just, you give your heart to the site.
Yeah.
And you go in with humble, not with an arrogance like I'm so-and-so and, with an ego and out of your mind, but some very humble and gentle and loving and real. And I find when you do that, the sites give you a whole lot more.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is gorgeous, my friend. That is absolutely gorgeous. I got to spend some time with the Lakota in South Dakota at the beginning of things, 95 actually it was. And that was something I learned from them. And I see that in all the indigenous cultures. I love the way you express that, Luna. That's really beautiful, that when we, acknowledge our frailty and our vulnerability, then the universe can open the door for us. If we think we know something.
We're open.
Yeah.
We're open, and we're not coming from our ego. We're coming from art, and we're being real about where we're at.
Yeah. And you're describing to me, really this whole huge shift of the patriarchy, the mind, the will, the masculine energy out of touch with the spirit, the soul, the emotion, the earth, the feminine energy, we're living in this moment, you know, where it's all
Yeah.
shifting back into divine balance.
Yeah, and there's a huge wave of trying to control humanity at the moment, and
Yes,
it's
there is.
been going on for eons. But the fear factor, if they can keep you in fear, when you're in fear, you can't access truth. You
Right.
just can't access your inner truth. You can't. You're in fear. If you're, yeah. So they like to keep us in fear because they can control us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is to not go into fear, and that's easier said than done. But
Sure. Sure.
but fear is the greatest block to accessing your inner truth and your God self inside of yourself than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. I mean, the gift of knowing that God, Goddess, all that is, and spirit is real, you know, is such a precious thing. And we may forget it, and we may deny it, and we may get confused about the details from time to time. But to keep coming back to that knowing and surrendering to that knowing and honoring that gift, you know, to be made aware of the way reality is really working, you know, is so precious to me. And you know, it is what we can radically surrender into. You know, when we are frightened, when we are confused, when we're in pain, et cetera, et cetera. I got to visit some really deep places in my heart over the last 50 days of my healing journey.
Oh, I
bet
you did.
Yeah, and I didn't want to go there, and it was not fun, you know.
No.
Right, right. But it's given me a lot of, I hope, humility, you know, that we're speaking about, and a greater willingness to be my authentic self and to trust that. And that's what I'm walking with, you know, is that intention and that prayer. And it's just, as I say again, it's just divine timing to get to chat with you, you know, about all this stuff right now. What is your next adventure? Where's your next trip?
Heading off to Scotland in 6 weeks.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay, finally.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Have you been before, or is this your first time?
Several times.
Yeah.
There's a few places that I'm not done with. There's a few places that I feel really calling us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm ready to go.
Great. I'm just prompted right now. 3 of my friends, I think, are connected with Shasta as well. Do you know David Maria? Okay. Or Teresa Lutnager? Okay. I have to connect you. Or over in Wales, Zahara Celestial.
Wales we're heading to next year.
Okay.
We're in the that was one that I've been waiting for a long time. And every time I tuned into Wales, I go, well, I want to go to Wales. Well, that's my mind. And I had to wait for the invitation. And the invitation came in 2020. And of course, we had to cancel that trip. And now it feels open again to go.
Yeah. Do you know Richard Rudd and the Gene Keys and his story of awakening in Wales?
I haven't met him, but I've heard of him. Yeah. Yes,
he had his spiritual awakening in Wales, which was really profound. Evidently, I've just started to learn about him and the Gene Keys and all that. But he was like in an altered state for days, and when he came back to himself, then he started channeling the Gene Keys, which is an update really from the I Ching, basically. Yeah. A lot of powerful folks out there. Well, my friend, I'm thanking you right now for your time, your wisdom, your love and light, your courage, and for the opportunity to hang out with you.
Oh, thank you, Lou.
You're very welcome. Where can people find you? You're welcome. My pleasure. We'll do it again, I hope. Where can people find you and your information?
ALUNAjoy.com.
Very good. Easy peasy. Very good. And so you have trips, you have the essences and the oils, and you do sessions with people? You do work with people, or? Rarely.
At this point, I'm still not doing sessions because everybody's got the same question, and it's the one none of us have. So I'm wise enough to know not to do that yet.
Good for you.
Only few people that are in a real jam. Do I?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're all in this place where we really don't know where we're heading, and yet we're taking steps, and step by step. I think it's just going to take some active creating, where we're actively creating our future step by step, and this future won't arrive until we create it. And at the point we're at now, we're just landing. So in a grand scheme of things, if you think of this cycle of 104,000 years or 26,000 years, we've just been born, and we are completely vulnerable to the universe. If you spread out a human life over 26,000 years, we're just a baby. We're just a baby. And this is something they told me would happen when we arrived here. I just didn't realize how challenging it was going to be.
Yeah.
And how vulnerable it was going to make us all feel.
Yeah.
And because we really don't know yet. And I think as long as we don't define things too much, and follow each moment as it comes.
Right.
And always make sure you stay in the heart and follow the heart, not do anything out of a need or necessity because that's fear, but do it because it's a calling. And granted, there are things you got to do that are needs and necessities.
Sure.
We're still in bodies. We're still 3D people here. We still have to deal with a lot of material world. But when we create something new for humanity, it has to come from the heart, or it won't be sustainable. It won't hold true because that world will not support it. Yeah.
Yeah. But as you're saying, when we do come from humility and integrity in the heart, it will endure, will sustain, it will raise the vibration of everyone that's touched by it. I believe that. Yeah. Well, it's exciting times, my dear, no doubt. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm glad you're still here.
Me too. Me too. Let me tell you, I was looking over the edge. Yes, I'm very glad to still be here. Yeah. Great. Well, my love to you, and we'll talk soon, I hope, and total success in all your endeavors, and God bless you.
Oh, thank you, Lou. Yeah, and you very deep healing.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, yes. Very good. Did it. We did it. Good for us. And I'm happy to share this with people. And please feel free to do the same. I'll send you the link here. And thank you again. Have a wonderful day.
All right, Lou.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, honey. Cheers.